Hi, so the first thing that we need to do is establish that your Eurocylinder lock can unlock on both sides and that it has an emergency feature. So what I mean by this is, say this is partially turned and this was on the inside of your door, you could insert another key from the outside and still unlock the lock and lock the lock. And just to show you from the other side, so if I inserted this here and say we partially turned this, you can insert from this side and lock and unlock the door. This is a safety feature that you need to work with the U200. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove this lock, and we're going to do that by taking this screw out here. Now that that's removed, this starts wiggling, and what you can do is just turn this until the lock comes out. So on here you want to make sure that this little lever is in line, and then we can push this in. Sometimes they are a little bit fiddly, and make sure that the door will lock and unlock, and then get this little screw. Good thing to stop it threading is if you go anti-clockwise, you'll hear a little click, and then you can, oh, there we go, and then you can start screwing clockwise. If you start that by hand, then you make sure that you're not going to cross thread anything, and then make sure it is securely tightened. Make sure that it still locks and unlocks, which it does quite freely. And that's the first part of the installation complete. This bracket here, as you can see for this profile, I'm going to leave this one in and not use the other plate, as it does fit nicely over there. Now, as I was saying before, with the UK doors it's slightly different, and we're going to have to put a couple of screws in here and here. If you don't want to do that, you can cut a piece of wood out or something that's the same shape as this and the same depth, and then you're not leaving a gap. But my mum and dad said that it's fine just to put a couple of screws in here. Now this slides over here, and what you want to make sure just before you do screw anything up is get your key, put it in, hold it in place, and make sure that this still turns nice and free all the way while locking and unlocking. So in my case, it's not scraping on any of the part of the housing, so we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of screws in here to secure it on, and then I'll show you that this is nice and sturdy. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put a couple of screws in here, and just be careful to try and keep it roughly in place while you do it. And I'm going to put that one in there and just get it started a little bit. And then I'm going to get my other screw and get this one started a little bit. Oh. Like I said, make sure it doesn't move too much in there, even though I just did. May have to back that off a little bit. And there we go. So as you can see, that isn't going anywhere at all. This is one of the standard UK composite doors. I do like to give it a bit of a stress test. I know I might pull it off, but it's better me doing it than somebody else. And once again, put your key inside. There we go, me being silly. And just make sure once again that it turns nice and freely in the lock, which that does. So we can now proceed to the next step. Now what you want to do is grab this part of the lock, and you want to grab 3 of these screws. There is 4, but you'll only need 3. And there's a little tab at the bottom here. Just get your nail under it and gently prise this off. And I'm just covering them up there. So these 3 screws, one wants to go in this hole, one wants to go in this hole, and one wants to go in this hole here at the bottom. Now they slide onto 1, 2 and 3 posts. So what we'll do is this bit here, make sure that this is nice and level. You can move it around, but make sure it's nice and level, or as level as you can get it. And with the key inserted into the door, align that up and slide it over the top. As you can see, the spring is actually pushing it forward. With these screws here, what I always recommend doing is pushing forward and put the screw in the little hole, and then go anti-clockwise until you hear a tiny click. I would also recommend just doing this with a hand screwdriver, not a power tool like I was using to put the screw into the door. So as you can see, if we go left, there we go, tiny click, and then you know that you're not going to thread the hole. So we shall screw this in. As you can see, it does go in quite far, so just nip it up. It wants to be tight enough that it's not going to come undone again, but it doesn't want to be so tight that if you need to get into it, then you're not going to be able to do so. So, there we go. So we'll screw this in. So as I'm saying, just tight enough. Right, so it's just getting tight there, and I'll give it an extra quarter of a turn, and there we go. And then we'll do the same with the bottom one. So bottom one here, put it in anti-clockwise until you hear a little click or feel a little click. Oh. There we go. Helps if I was actually in the right part. We'll get this screwed in. Sorry about the ticks, I've just been travelling and apparently my brain is a little bit ticky. There we go. So that is the lock installed on the door successfully. It doesn't move anywhere. I'll now show you installing the keypad. And before you do anything else, just pop the cover back on here, and again make sure that it turns nice and freely while the key's inserted, and this is all on. As we're going to take the back off here, I've already used a little tool to get this off, and I am going to take this off here because I'm wiring it in. If not, you can insert your batteries, put this back on, and then when you mount this, then it will slide over the top back there. I'll be leaving this off. I do realise there's like a little rubber seal to stop ingress, but that little rubber seal doesn't extend to here. So here we have your positive and negative terminals. It doesn't matter whether you do one positive, one negative, or positive and negative. It will recognise and pick up what the power needs to do. So we'll get this installed on the wall. You're going to want the back plate. You're going to want the 2 supplied wall plugs and screws. You're going to want a pencil or something to mark with, and you're going to want a 6mm drill bit so that you can drill a couple of holes. If not, you can peel this sticky off and stick it onto something. Obviously it's not going to work very well if you do it on brick. You could put it on plastic though. So we're going to get this in a nice bit here, and let's see how we go. But we've decided to put it in a slightly different place, just because it'll give it a little bit more protection from the elements. So you would use a 6mm drill bit for your wall plugs if you were going to drill it in and use it with the wall plugs, but I've managed to put it in here, and we're just going to screw it in, and it does sort of nip up nice and tight. So I've pre-done a couple of little holes that are just ever so slightly smaller than the 2 screws, and I'm going to put one of them in at the top here. As you can see, there's 2 little pencil lines around where I put this up and made sure that it was in place. Now we're not going to do that all the way up, just because I'm going to be feeding a wire through it. There we go, that's roughly there, and we're roughly level there. We're going to be checking it a little bit later with the level on the phone. I know it's not completely accurate, but it is good enough. As you can see, there's a little magnet here that detects if the keypad's pulled off, then an alarm will go off. So we will get it all wired in now. I just need to climb up in the loft and get the wire fed through, but I won't bore you with that bit. So hopefully you should be seeing me starting to wire it in now. And I have the wire through. Before anybody mentions anything about the shoddy wiring work, I am going to put it inside some trunking. However, I left it in my brother's car when he was dropping us off, so it will be done. But yeah, before anybody decides to say, oh, your wiring's absolute crap. So I'm going to cut it off at the appropriate length, and we're going to strip it. I'm not going to use any precise measurement because we're going to wrap it round. I'm going to wrap it round some screws, as you'll see. Helps if I do it the right way. There we go. So hopefully you saw that. And on this one, the positive wire is indicated by a dashed line. Hopefully you can see it on the camera. It doesn't want to focus. Are we going to focus? No, we're not going to focus. But hopefully you can see there is actually like a dashed line on there. That's going to be the positive. Now I put the positive wire on the left-hand screw just as a course of habit, and I put the negative on the right hand side as again just as a course of habit, but it doesn't really matter. So thank you very much, Sam. Sam's helping me out as usual. Now what we're going to do is we're going to undo one of these screws. As I say, the left one I'm going to put into the positive. Now I like to undo it all the way, and the reason for that is I then grab this wire, and because we're going to screw it in clockwise, twist your wires, make them nice and neat first. I like to wrap it clockwise because we're going to screw in clockwise, and then the only thing it can do is get a little bit tighter rather than loosening up. So we'll get our screw there and we'll wrap it round clockwise. Some of these you can get with little nuts on, but unless you're ordering the exact length, then you'll obviously have to clip it anyway. So now that we've got that in, remember, clockwise, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Then just start it with your finger. Again, use the little trick, go left first and then right, so you don't thread anything. And then again, no power tools on this one, just nice screwdriver until we've just nice and securely, not overly tight, but nice and securely nipped it up. So again, with the negative, we're going to twist it off, because I forgot to do that before. And then we're going to take this screw out here. I did pre-loosen these screws, by the way. So because we're going to go that way, we're going to go clockwise round the screw. Just wrap it round so it's roughly on that. Again, you can use your finger / thumb till it clicks, then start right. Screwdriver once again. Tighten, 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 tighten. Not so tight that you're going to break anything. Just nice and nipped up there. As you can see, hopefully on there is like a little bit of a plastic lip, just to prevent any contact from the wires, so it makes sure that your wires are separated. So now that we have done that and wired it in, the reason I'm leaving the battery compartment off is because then that can go there. And what I didn't do, can I have my, it's all right, I can use my screwdriver. What I didn't do was pass the wire through. So now that I've actually got that wired back in, we'll check that we've got just enough wire so that that folds in there nicely. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second. Once it's on, there we go. So we've got just enough wire now to tuck this in here when it goes on. So there is a little groove here. So before you tighten that little groove down, just make sure that it's on there. You may want to get a friend to help you, or secure the wiring just before you tighten everything up. So let's tighten this in. That's nice and tight on there. And we'll do the bottom one as well. Just nip it up. Again, nothing needs to be overly tightened. We don't want anything breaking. And then this then can slip and click, and that is your keypad installed and ready to go. As I say, this will be put inside trunking, and my brother's just turned up again so I can get it out of his car, so it will be all nice and neatened up. And just in case anybody thinks that nah, he's never going to tidy those wires up, there we go, all nice and tidy. So that is the installation done on the U200 smart lock. If you want, you can go over to my other video where I show you setting it up in the software, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you very much for watching. Please give me a like, and if you feel like it, please give me a subscribe. It does help very much. Thank you once again. Hope you have a wonderful day.